Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Game Changer. I'm Mariam Zia. In today's program, in the first segment, we will be talking about the recently concluded 22nd meeting of the SCO Council of Heads of Governments. And of course, we know that a Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Jalil Abbas Jilani, represented Pakistan in this meeting. This meeting is significant because of the changes that we are witnessing across the globe on geopolitics. We are seeing and witnessing new emergencies and new alliances emerging. And of course, we will be talking about Pakistan's foreign policy, how it is aligning with these multilateral organizations. Of course, this Council of Heads of Government is the second important council in this particular organization. We will be talking about its impacts and what are the takeaways from this important meeting at this point in time. In the second segment of the program, of course, we will be talking about the Palestine conflict and Israel's aggression on Palestine. Of course, we know that the humanitarian crisis that is unfolding and each day the number of deaths is increasing in Palestine, and till date the deaths of civilians in Palestine, the death toll has reached to 8,000 people. We'll be talking about the world's response to this, what needs to be done and what's the way forward. To discuss this and more, we are joined in the studios by Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, who is expert in international affairs. Welcome to the program. And we are also joined by Dr. Zia Shamsi, who is expert in international affairs. Welcome to the program. Of course, let's start with this recently concluded 22nd SCO meeting of the Council of Heads of Government. Foreign Minister of Pakistan represented Pakistan. So, Dr. Jaspal, what are your key takeaways from this meeting?
I think that the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is very important, and it is its primary focus is on the militancy and eradication of radicalization or these kind of things. But with the passage of time, its scope has been increasing and its original membership has been transformed. In 2017-18, Pakistan, India became a member, and this time Iran also became a member of the permanent member of the SCO. The regional, if you see, the SCO's primary focus is on the Euro-Asia. And in the Euro-Asia, they are trying to manage many things so that the radicalization decrease. However, in this conference, they are definitely encountering a new trend, and the new trend is that in the Middle East, what is happening, that there is a lot of challenges are there, and because of this 23 days war, ongoing war, asymmetrical warfare between Israel and Palestine, it is also taxing that. So my takeaway is that SCO is an important organization. However, India, in order to oblige its Western allies, it tried to degrade the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in the last summit, because instead of inviting face to face, it invited for the virtual conference in the last summer. But generally, when we focus on these development, we find that no, SCO is still growing. It's a very significant Euro-Asian regional organization, more focusing on the non-traditional security challenges to the member states. But at the same time, we cannot ignore it. It's you can say political military significance, because China, Russia, India, Pakistan, they are and Iran now from the Middle East, they are the leading member of this.
Of course, initially this organization comprises of 8 members, and it is expanding, and now it represents more than 40% of the population of the world, which is significant. So, Dr. Shamsi, what are your takeaways from this recently concluded meeting, and also are there some significant partnerships or alliances or agreements coming out of this important meeting that are of significance or benefit to Pakistan?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Mariam. Actually, the timings for this meeting were very important.
True.
World is at war this time. As I've said it previously in one of our programs, that we are already at World War 2.5, and unfortunately it is expanding. So, if the focus was on regional cooperation and development, it has actually met under the cloud of 2 very distinct wars. One in Europe, that is Ukraine, Russia, and one in the Middle East, that is Israeli aggression against Gaza
Ukraine.
and Gaza and
Israeli,
Palestine.
of course, Gaza,
Yeah.
of course.
At the same time, Kashmir continues to bleed. So, and Afghanistan is still not settled. So, we are passing through a very, very difficult time, and that is why the timings of this meeting was very significant, and the participants had to grapple with a very, very vast agenda which may not have been conceived before. I would say here Pakistan was fortunate to have been led by Minister Jalil Abbas Jilani, who is a professional diplomat, and that is why I think he was able to project Pakistan's viewpoint on all these issues that we are discussing, be it Ukraine war, be it regional cooperation, be it trade between these countries, be it the blockade of grains etc. out of Ukraine, and be it the Middle East crisis. He very forcefully projected Pakistan's viewpoint, and people understood that where Pakistan stands, because Pakistan is a very, very important member now, because India is there and now Iran is also there. So, as Professor Saab said that Euro-Asia is expanding towards West Asia now, Iran is also included. BRICS, as you said rightly, that 40% and also covers 30% of world's GDP.
GDP, of course, which is significant.
And all the time expanding. This is very important.
This is expanding, which shows its true spirit. And Dr. Shamsi, when we talk about SCO, the Shanghai spirit is often cited as one of the fundamental principles or key values of SCO. Can you tell us about the basic values of this Shanghai spirit and how it has evolved over time and how it has benefited the member countries?
Yeah, very important question, Mariam. I think you've raised a very, very significant issue. It is the value system that is beating the West, and it is the Chinese value system prophesied by Sun Tzu some 2500 years ago, that you should win the war without fighting.
True.
And that is what President Xi is carrying forward. Cooperative engagement, productive engagement, together we rise, together we march, development, growth together, shared vision, shared resources. That is what is actually bothering the West, because their concept is either you are with us or you are without us. So, they do not believe in this cooperation or cooperative arrangements or engagement etc. So, these are the values which not only SCO, but BRICS, Group of 77 plus China, and all those organizations which have evolved over the years with the leadership of China are carrying the same values, and that is why the countries at this time is perhaps feeling at home dealing with China instead of the United States. So, it is the value system that is beating the West. Otherwise, if the values of the West which really dominated at least the Cold War era, the peace, liberty, life, freedom, common good, democracy, justice is not seen now practically, because in my today's column in Daily Times I have written that this is intriguing, that the Western world cities are counter value targets, but when it comes to Palestine it becomes a counter force target. It becomes a no value target, and they continue to pound. They've killed 8,000 people.
Of course, we will be talking about the double standards when we talk about Palestine crisis and Palestine conflict. But Dr. Jaspal, when we talk about SCO, we have seen that over the past few years, SCO has been increasingly playing an important role when we talk about the changing geopolitical dynamics. How do you analyze these changing roles of this organization, and do you think it has helped the member states?
Look, Mariam, and SCO was created. It was created on the basis of Shanghai, and then the Chinese 5 principles and all these kind of things the Russians supported. We have seen that the SCO has emerged as an important organization in 2006 when SCO communicated that the different countries have a different political cultures and they need a different political systems. It was a collective response by the Russians, by the Chinese and the Central Asians, to the regime change policy of the United States at that time. Then we have seen that gradually the NATO was expanding its eastern, you can say, presence, especially in the Afghanistan, and the people started looking Shanghai Cooperation Organization as a check on the NATO's eastward creep. But then we have seen that Shanghai Cooperation Organization gradually started opening, doing more work on the radicalized terrorism or these kinds of things. They have set the security subcommittee, foreign ministers council. The member states started doing their exercises which we call it anti-terrorism, paramilitary forces exercises and the other troops exercises, which contributed significantly in combating the menace of terrorism in these countries. Then we have seen, which you have rightly pointed, that in this transforming global strategic environment, of course, in this transforming global strategic environment, there's one side is NATO alliance is still there, 31 countries, but the Americans have initiated and other minilateral strategic groups like Quad, AUKUS, AUKUS Plus, they are working on it, NATO Plus. So here comes the SCO from this side, but in this context, if you see, SCO does not have a charter like the NATO alliance charter. So it's a partnership, it's an organization dealing with the non-traditional security challenges, not like a military challenges, so we have to make it clear.
Right.
But of course, I do agree what you have very rightly pointed out, that in this transforming global politics, SCO is a very significant Euro-Asian organization, and many states are trusting on it. Despite, that's the reason Americans and the Indians, or Indians in order to please them, try to degrade it. But again, now in the Foreign Minister Council, which you have just referred, the Indian Foreign Minister was present there, Pakistani Foreign Minister was present there, second Vice Premier of the Iranians was there. So it's an organization which is growing, and its influence, or its country's influence is strengthening. And of course, within this, it's a very suitable, Dr. Shamsi very right pointed out the BRICS, BRI,
Right.
because if you see these three initiatives, President Xi's Global Security Initiative, Global Development Initiative, and Global recent initiative, this was Global Civilization Initiative. If we can bring them, SCO become a very good, you can say, organization to further strengthen this peace through dialogue and combat the menace of terrorism, extremism, and radicalism.
Of course, to talk more about SCO and the recently concluded meeting, we are also joined online by Mr. Shehjar Khan. Welcome to the program. So Mr. Shehjar, when we talk about SCO, of course we know that the member states have diverse political backgrounds and they have different priorities. How do you think that SCO can foster cooperation among these countries, keeping in mind the changing geopolitical dynamics and new alliances that are emerging each day?
So Mariam, when this SCO meetup took place, so we have to look at the global geopolitical dynamics under which this meeting was taking place. So there's an escalation of the multidimensional challenges which have been aggravated by the recent geopolitical tensions and various conflicts. And now the world is seeing a lot of reduced investment flows, and there's a breakdown of international value chains. The international financial markets are in turbulence, and a lot of countries are trying to protect themselves by enabling protectionist measures, and there's a lot of barrier to international trade, international investment, and this is really hindering economic growth as well. It is also hindering transportation, food security, energy security, and a lot of financial stability and social well-being of people. Even due to climate change, it's under a lot of scrutiny, and all the member states are worried about it. So when it comes to the head of delegations meetup, the significance of the SCO's economic development strategy also came into play, which is recently been launched, and it looks at a target to be achieved by 2030, and it was all adopted by the SCO member states. And this document, it called to facilitate the SCO's economic breakthrough while prioritizing the green agenda, which is very important, expanded regional trade, and creation of favorable business and investment climate in the SCO region especially. So they instructed specialized ministries and agencies to draft action plans to basically take this economic development strategy forward. So this brings together a lot of like countries which have competing interests in the region, but one interest is like very common, and that is the stability of the region, improving and enhancing regional connectivity, and developing economic dependencies on each other so there can be free flow of trade. And now,
Of course. Right,
yeah.
right. That is very important, Dr. Shamsi, that there are challenges when we talk within the region and beyond as well. How do you see the role of SCO and specifically the recently concluded 22nd meeting when we look at the situation in Afghanistan as well, because that is one of the factors that is hindering the connectivity as well as the stability of the region. So do you think there are some tangible results or outcomes that we have achieved from this meeting?
Yeah, very much. Why? As you said in the beginning, that this was the most difficult time for any kind of high level meeting because we are at war. The word is at war. What SCO does best is that it is focused on people's projects. That means transportation, communication, supply chain management, market access, cooperation, media, technology. So these things are directly benefiting the people and the governments, and therefore the governments are happy in the sense in executing these projects because they directly contribute to people's well-being. So in this environment, when world is at war, this type of gathering discussing all these aspects other than the security situation was very significant.
Of course.
And there was a requirement of headway to look at the climate, at least to look at the evolving security situation, to look at the terrorism, look at the extremism, look at other aspects when the world is practically at war. So this is that is why I say that this meeting was very significant, and it has really made all countries commit that these aspects will not be overlooked because they directly benefit the people of each government. So that is why I'm really very pleased that this kind of session took place, and it is a preparation for next year's summit also in Kyrgyzstan. So that is in Pakistan. So that is why it was very important that some professional heads the delegation of Pakistan and makes the ground preparation done.
Of course, and Dr. Jaspal, of course, Pakistan is going to be hosting the next summit. Or when we see that a number of countries have joined SCO over the last 2-3 decades since 2001, how do you see that SCO has evolved, and how SCO is navigating the changing geopolitical dynamics?
I think that the SCO has evolved very significantly. After its first membership, the two states, India and Pakistan, joined, and recently this year, Iran became a permanent member.
So do you think they are actually catering to the interests of these member states?
No, come here. There are many other states which are also bidding for the membership of the SCO. Turkey participated recently, the Saudis are interested in these kind of things. Now, coming towards your question, my understanding is that SCO steadily, you can say, evolved as a very significant Euro-Asian organization. It has managed to establish its presence in the domain of counter-terrorism, counter-extremism, and radicalization. SCO has also provided an opportunity to the head of the states and the head of the council of the ministers or the others in the sideline meetings that they can meet and resolve their bilateral issues. But of course, it has nothing to do with the bilateral disputes. But when you focus on that in this evolving or transforming global geopolitics, we find that the SCO along the other organization has been doing well, and SCO being a representative of the Euro-Asian or Asian side, it will be gaining more momentum and significance in the global politics. in order to support my argument that it is gaining importance, it is important, it is evolving and not ignorable, the reason is the other members' desires. Number of the key states in the region desires to be a part of the SCO.
Of course, Mr. Shahjar, when we talk about SCO, of course, one of the important principles or the goal or the purpose of this organization is to improve connectivity within the member states. How do you think that since its inception it has implemented the connectivity goal of the organization when we talk about physical connectivity among the member states as well as the digital connectivity in the member states?
So a lot of work has been done on the digital connectivity, but physical connectivity, I think there is like a lot of room to maneuver and there's like a lot more to be done. Especially like, when it comes to railway or road transportation, connecting all of the Central Asia with South Asia has always been a challenge because of the economic and security wise or political instability in Afghanistan. Other than that, that is not like stopping us from at least developing some sort of aid linkages between, for example, Central Asia and Pakistan. And that is like one place where a lot of like countries are still cooperating, but there's like a lot of room that can be maneuvered. Very recently, Azerbaijan has started like 2 flights a week between Pakistan, Islamabad and Baku. And Astana Air is like taking the lead on that. But I still feel that a lot of like Central Asian countries, especially Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, these are like very oil-rich, resource-rich countries, and the connections between Pakistan and Central Asia are still very limited. So this is like one area. I can understand the political implications of the instability in Afghanistan that is proving to be a hindrance when it comes to developing railway networks, road networks. But the air linkages, there are low-hanging fruit which can be used to develop these linkages between these two countries. Other than that, there's like a lot of like discussion even on the global economic governance system that SCO is like projecting, and they're like very critical of the way how the West is approaching a lot of like global issues, geopolitical issues. And they also gave a very important statement in which they basically said that they want to consistently uphold and strengthen the open, transparent, equitable and all-inclusive international governance system and international trade system as well, which should be incorporated on generally recognized international principles and rules. So they also like gave slightly political statements as well, criticizing the role of the West in the current geopolitical arena. And they emphasized that unilateral use of economic sanctions to punish other countries, that was also criticized. And they said that only those sanctions which are approved by the UN Security Council, they should be taken on board, overtaking and like keeping in mind the principles of international law. And we see that there are like a lot of like international conflicts right now that are taking place in which, for example, the Israel-Palestine conflict,
right.
There are a lot of like international law is being trampled under the feet of the Western powers. So this
right,
duality
and when we talk about
of,
these conflicts, Mr. Shahjar, let me take this discussion to Dr. Shamsi. Dr. Shamsi, when we talk about these emerging conflicts and geopolitical tensions exist within these member states as well. Do you think SCO can play some role, or it has played some role previously in addressing these geopolitical tensions among the member states when we talk about within the region?
Actually not.
Okay, there are no examples of some diplomatic initiatives addressing these issues.
Because the agenda is different, the focus is different. It is carrying the green agenda, and it is more focused towards the business climate, cooperative engagement, etc. However,
security is also part of SCO.
That's what I'm coming at. However, it cannot remain oblivious to the security situation for very long. So maybe SCO starts to exert some influence on member countries in the coming years to maybe pursue cooperative engagement bilaterally also. But at the moment it is not focused towards that side, because there are other forums available where the same member countries are debating the security situation on the respective forums. So, not through the SCO forum as of now, but it cannot remain out of it for very long, I think. This is what my
Right. And lastly of this segment, Dr. Jaspal, when we talk about SCO, how do you see SCO's role evolving in coming years? And of course, Pakistan is going to play an important role being the chair of SCO. What are your expectations?
I think that SCO has a very optimistic and promising future. Next year, 2024, when Pakistan will be going to host the SCO summit, and before that, after that, it will be a good opportunity for Pakistan to, you can say, highlight its own concerns, because our and SCO agendas are common, and we are suffering from a terrorism, and this terrorism is emanating from both the eastern and western neighbors. With the SCO, from the SCO, we are able to realize the eastern neighbor and as well as the sensitize the international community that, look, this is a global challenge, and we have to work together for meeting it. And finally, I think that in this, once again, whether we like it or not, though Pakistan's foreign policy is not in favor of this, what you call it, alliances politics, and we are very much declared neutral state, especially after our national security, you can say, document or release last year. But the trend is that somehow these alliances or groupings or partnerships are going to grow, because the American-led West is very much in the alliances politics, and SCO is a good option in that context. Even if it is not going to challenge them, but at least it provides a space for the like-minded states as an organization to steward the world out of the current crises, which are like terrorism, militancy, radicalization.
Right, of course, this is very important, and when we talk about SCO, such organizations provide a platform to the member states to raise their concerns and to discuss the issues that the world is witnessing at the moment. We will be taking a short break here, and when we come back, we will be talking about the ongoing situation that is emerging in Palestine. Back as the Israel's aggression on Gaza enters its fourth week, it is difficult to keep up pace with all the happenings that are going around, but we are witnessing the humanitarian loss that the Palestinian civilians are going through. The death toll has reached to more than 8,000, and this death toll is increasing by each hour. We will be talking about this ongoing situation. Mr. Shajar, let me start with you. Of course, when we talk about this ongoing crisis that started happening on October 7, how do you see the current situation, and how do you see the world's response so far to this humanitarian crisis?
Right now, more than 8,000 people, including 3,000 children, have been killed in Gaza since the start of this, aggression by Israel on the 7th of October. Save the Children, which is an international INGO, it is reported that the number of children in Gaza killed since October 7 has exceeded the number of children killed in conflicts around the world annually since 2019. So this is the scale of devastation that the Israeli forces are bringing down on the civilians of Palestine. And when it comes to the raids that air raids that Israel is doing, it has killed over 30 people, and it's like also targeting hospitals, which is like a very it goes against the whole spirit of international law, and it's considered a war crime. And Israel is now acting with total impunity. A lot of like Western nation capitals which project themselves as crusaders of human rights and international law, they're just like standing there, not even calling for a ceasefire. Another thing that I'm like seeing in the world is that the populations of these countries are against these policies of their government and their like rulers, and we can like see that massive protests are happening simultaneously across the world. If you look at Paris, if you look at Spain, if you look at the UK, even like a lot of states in the US, Muslim countries aside, even Western countries and their nationals and their people are protesting in huge numbers against the policies of their own respective countries. Other
Of
than
course,
that,
there
like
are
when it
protests
comes to
going on throughout the world, including Pakistan. But how do you see the world's response to it, especially when we talk about the ongoing situation and the response of UNGA and its failure to implement the resolution it passed for giving humanitarian truce to the civilians?
Look, the issue is that in the United Nations Security Council, when the resolutions have been tabled, the Americans have been vetoing them. So they make Americans and Britishers have made the United Nations Security Council virtually non-functional on the issues of this current Palestinian and Israeli conflict. However, the other states like the Russia, China, they attempted that the Israel's, you can say, atrocities must be stopped and humanitarian aid shall go. The humanitarian aid has been sent by the United Nations. Even the United Nations General Secretary has protested on it through the from the Egyptian side. But if you see that the Israelis are hiding on their own, because Israeli defense forces fail to detect what is going to happen, and Prime Minister Netanyahu has admitted that their security mechanism has failed. It has exposed the so-called Israel's over, you can say, estimated technologically advanced forces and networks which have been miserably failed. And now Israelis wanted to go and finish Hamas, but practically it's impossible because Gaza is an entirely different place. There are more than 1,300 mines, you can say, which they call it Gaza metros. Under the rumors, if they enter it, it will be tough for them, provided that they are not using the chemical, biological or depleted uranium weapons. In this context,
of course, that is why they are testing the waters to go for the ground operation.
they are tested and they are using it, and the world is silent over it. They may use it. But my point is that what they wanted to shut everything. They are conducting the genocide of the Palestinians by killing the children and all this. Today we had a seminar on the Palestine, and it was one expert from the international law, he revealed, and I think it's correct figure, he said that the people who attacked, or the Abbas recruits who attacked on the 7th October, 85% of them were orphans, who were like this kind of situation, and then they grow up and they so now you have 8,000 killings, out of them 3,000 plus children's killing, 20,000 today's figure I'm just giving you, that 20,000 wounded. If this kind of the atrocity, and what is the Gazarians' strength, 2 million plus. So Israel is not stopping it, but it is breeding a new generation of the warriors which are going to pose them a challenge. So here on the one side, yes, miseries, genocide attempts are there, but they are not going to succeed.
Of course, and Dr. Shamsi, like Dr. Despal pointed out, that this is maybe third or fourth generation of the citizens, Palestinians or Gazans, that are witnessing these crimes or barbaric crimes or Israelis' aggression against them. So how do you see what needs to be done by the international community to address the root causes of Israel-Palestine conflict?
No, I think we have passed that stage now. There is no time to determine the root cause of the conflict now, because the war is on. I have called Israel as inherently criminal state. They are committing not only ethnic cleansing, but they are committing genocide of the people of Palestine. And unfortunately, the Ummah is sleeping. More demonstrations are in the Western world. My hats off to the people around the world, except the Islamic countries, unfortunately. It really pains me to speak like that, but this is the unfortunate part. That Israel is carrying out atrocities and blatant bombing.
Right.
Blatant bombing, more than Tora Bora. This is more than Tora Bora.
Of course,
that
but
they have
Dr.
made
Shamsi,
of
at the
Gaza.
same time, we are witnessing, please go ahead.
There was an estimate last week
Sir?
I mean that estimate was given on Thursday.
Sir?
The claim was that till Thursday, the air raids by which the ammunition which they dumped or with that they striked in the Gaza, that ammunition destructive capability is nearer to 15 KT of the nuclear, nearer to the Hiroshima.
Absolutely.
That was the, you are from the Air Force, you know better than me, but that
Absolutely. That is one reason, sir. In my today's article, I have compared the situation with the nuclear weapons strategy of counter value versus counter no value, because now look at the hypocrisy of the West, that the Western world cities are considered as counter value targets.
Right.
But the Palestinian cities are not considered as
right, and that's what I was going to talk about, that there is hypocrisy in narrative as well that we are witnessing in the Western media, that they are showing the Palestinian deaths just as numbers, but there is human angle to the stories of Israeli killings. Of course, any civilians should not be killed, but the way it is being portrayed, what do you say about that?
No, this is blatant. You know, I fully understand and I fully believe that all lives matter, whether it is white or black, west or east, south or north, but you have no right to kill the non-combatants. You have no right to kill the children, women, old, and look at the ethics of war given to us by the Prophet, peace be upon him. That do not kill children, do not kill women, do not cut trees, isn't it?
Right.
Do not kill non-combatants, do not kill unarmed. And they are not only bombing, they are deliberately bombing the shelters, the refugee shelters, the hospitals, the educational institutions. You know, there is a town in which the entire academic session has been wiped off. All students have died and embraced shahadat in these bombings, and now the academic session, whenever the war stops, cannot start. There is no class, there are no children, there are no students, there are no teachers.
Right, of course, this is heartbreaking, Mr. Shajar. When we talk about this, what do you see the way forward? Do you see any way of de-escalation or the implementation of international humanitarian law when we talk about Palestine situation?
So, Mariam, the situation right now, it's not looking as if there will be any end to this. The only green light that I see is that now international aid and humanitarian aid is coming through, and like people are getting some sort of relief. The United Nations has basically estimated that we need at least 100 trucks every day to come into the Gaza Strip to basically provide humanitarian aid to the people that are suffering under this brutal aggression. On Sunday, we saw some devastating pictures coming out in which the United Nations warehouses and distribution centers for basic necessities like wheat, flour, were raided by the people who were desperate, and for 3 weeks they were under total siege and relentless bombing by the Israeli Air Force. And these people had like no choice but to storm the warehouses to get the food items to feed their families. So this is a very big question mark on the legitimacy of the international community. And by the international community, I'm like talking about the Western capitals. That is the whole idea of human rights and international law that they have been preaching for the last so many years to the rest of the world. This duality of morality is something, and I personally see this is the unraveling of the ascendancy of the West. And now as we move into an era where there will be multiple power centers, this is the dying of the Western hegemony in the world right now. I don't think there will be anything coming back from this. There won't be any legitimacy of the Western nations when it comes to human rights, when it comes to moral uprightness, and when it comes to upholding international law, upholding international human rights principles. I don't think after this incident and after this brutal killing of Palestinian civilians, there would be any moral imperative left with the West after this incident.
Right, right. Thank you very much, Mr. Shahryar Khan, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Dr. Zia Shamsi, for joining us in today's program. Of course, in today's program, in this segment, our panelists talked about the heartbreaking situation in Palestine, of course, and the double standards and hypocrisy when we talk about the Western capitals and the failure to implement the international humanitarian law. Of course, the international community needs to take action to address this situation in Palestine. And of course, in the first segment of the program, we discussed about the recently concluded 22nd session of the Council of Heads of Governments. And of course, Pakistan has assumed the chairship of this year, and we are hoping that Pakistan is going to steer this organization towards cooperation and connectivity within the region and beyond. That's all from Game Changer tonight. Take care. Allah.